You know, sometimes people ask me if I'm a robot because we put so much content out there. But I'm inspired, and God has given me a gift. Excuse me. God has given me a gift that I'm just trying to share with the world. I sometimes you'll notice I push my glasses up or I wipe my mouth because I want you to know I'm a real person. Can I tell you how many times I go out and in my YouTube feed there'll be some religious post that I'm interested in? The thumbnail gets me, right? So I click on it, I go in, and it's this voice, and this voice talks in the same tone and tells you the story of the Bible, blah, 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 blah. Thumbs down, see you later. I'm just like, it's so important to me to be a human voice speaking the word of God. You know, I love doing this every day. And I was talking to my wife about this, and we were thinking, there is a theory out there called the dead internet theory. I don't know if you've ever heard about this, but the theory says that most of the content online isn't written by people anymore. It's written by machines. AI, bots, automated voices pretending to be human. Think about that for a second. I mean, every day, millions of posts, videos, articles, and comments. But think about it. How much of it actually comes from a living human heart? You can feel it when you scroll. You start to sense something is missing. It seems like the soul is gone. The words look alive, but there's no breath in them anymore. And it's strange because in some ways, it mirrors what's happening spiritually in the world, I think. There's so much noise, but so little life. So much speaking, but so little truth. It's just a bunch of people repeating what they heard, but few truly listening to the voice of God. Everybody's playing follow the follower. I can't help but wonder if the internet is becoming filled with lifeless echoes. How many of our souls have quietly become the same way as a result? I want to take you back 2,000 years. The world Jesus entered was loud too. You see, the streets of Jerusalem echoed with religious chants, rules, traditions, and expectations. And people prayed out loud to impress others, repeating the same phrases over and over, hoping God might hear if they just say enough words. And into that noise stepped a real voice. You see, Jesus did not echo what others were saying. He spoke what the Father told him to speak. Every word he said carried breath, divine breath, that cut through the lifeless repetition of religion and performance. And one day, he stood before the tomb of his friend Lazarus. It was a place where every human voice had already gone silent. Martha and Mary were weeping. The crowd was murmuring, and some said, if this guy is really the Son of God, Lazarus wouldn't have died. But Jesus didn't argue. He didn't repeat what the crowd was saying. He didn't echo their fear. He listened to the Father, and then he spoke. With tears in his eyes, he lifted his face and said, Father, I thank you that you have heard me. Then he turned toward the dark tomb and said, Lazarus, come forth. And suddenly, life answered. A man wrapped in burial clothes walked out. Now, that's the power of a real voice. One living word from God can pierce through what the world is already buried It can break through the static, the apathy, the lifeless repetition of a culture that is, in my opinion, forgotten how to heal and how to feel. You know, in John 10, Jesus said, "My sheep hear my voice, and I know them, and they follow me." Not, "My sheep echo what others say," or, "My sheep scroll endlessly trying to find meaning," but they hear my voice. And that means God is still speaking. You see, the problem isn't that his voice is silent. It's that we've stopped listening. We've turned to algorithms instead of the Almighty. You know, we're chasing what's trending instead of what's true. And sometimes along the way, we start mistaking noise for connection. But real connection, in my opinion, the kind that can actually change your soul, doesn't come from the internet. It comes from intimacy. It comes from hearing the shepherd call your name and realizing he knows me. Let me ask you something. Are you living as an echo or as a voice? Because you see, an echo repeats. It doesn't create. It doesn't think. And it doesn't feel. It just plays follow the follower. A voice, on the other hand, speaks from the heart. It carries the fingerprint of its creator. And when God breathed life into Adam, he wasn't coding data. He was creating a voice that could answer him back. That's what makes you different from every machine ever built. You're not programmed. You're called. You're not automated. You are anointed. And you're not predicted. You're purposeful. You see, God doesn't want you to just repeat religious lines or live on autopilot. He wants you alive with your own religious opinions. And when Jesus healed people, he didn't use a one-size-fits-all formula, did he? No. He spoke differently to each person because he saw them. To the blind man he said, "Go wash in the pool." To the leper he said, "Be clean." To the woman caught in sin, he said, "Go and sin no more." To the storm he said, "Peace, be still." And to Lazarus he said, "Come forth." You see, each command was personal. Each miracle came from a real relationship. Because God doesn't speak to you like a bot. He speaks to you like a father. So, what does this mean for us today? Well, in my opinion, it means it's time to get real again. When you pray, pray like someone who's alive. Stop worrying if it sounds perfect. God isn't grading your grammar. He's listening for your heart. And when you tell your story, tell it honestly. Turn off the filters. Don't filter out the pain. Don't edit out the mistakes. The world needs real people, not perfect profiles. And when you post online, share something that has life in it. Share something that reminds people they're still human. Because light doesn't compete with darkness. It just shines. Here's the challenge. Before you go to bed tonight, take out a notebook or open the Notes app on your phone. You'll probably be on your phone anyway, right? and write a prayer. Not one you've copied, not one you've read, just your own words. And Tell God how you really feel. Even if you're angry, even if you're confused, even if all you can say is, I don't know what to say. That's real. And that's the sound of life. Or write down one way God speaks to you. Through a verse, a dream, a conversation, maybe when you're in your quiet place. Because that's your voice print of heaven. Unique, irreplaceable, and divine. Because, you see, when Jesus said, Lazarus, come forth, he was proving something timeless, that the voice of God still reaches into what looks dead and brings it back to life. And you know what? That includes you. If your faith feels tired, if your soul feels numb, if your prayers feel like they've hit a ceiling, remember, the same voice that called Lazarus still calls your name. You're not forgotten. You are not just another username in a crowd. You're a son. You're a daughter. You are a living voice in a world of echoes. And when you speak from your spirit, honestly, humbly, and authentically, heaven still listens. So, I've talked about this in a few other videos today. Step away from the digital noise. Turn down the artificial world and just listen. Listen for the one voice that's still alive. Because the world doesn't need another echo. We don't need another follower following the follower. It needs you. It needs your story. It needs the unique gift that God put into you that only you can share with the world the way it was meant to be shared. So let the world hear the sound of someone who's been with Jesus. Because one real voice filled with the Spirit of God is stronger than 1,000,000 automated echoes. And if you ever doubt that, remember, a single voice once stood before a tomb, spoke 3 words, and death itself obeyed. Beat that. I just love Jesus and his stories. They are so beautiful, and there is just so much power there. My friends, I care about you. I believe in you, and I'll be back tomorrow. God bless you.